Welcome to Marketer and Machine by Amarsis, where you'll hear from some of the world's most innovative marketers as they share how they are successfully acquiring customers and retaining their loyalty, as well as what they see coming for the future of marketing. I'm Lindsay Chepkema, and I'll be your guide as we learn to bridge the gap between the marketer and the machine. Ready? Let's get started. How much tech is too much tech? And at what point do we lose sight of the art of marketing because we're too focused on the tools and platforms we're using to make it all happen? That's what I discussed today in my interview with Raj Choudhury. He's the president of BrightWave, a leading email and eCRM agency, and one that we here at Amarsis are proud to partner with. Raj brings over 18 years of entrepreneurial experience to the BrightWave team and to our conversation today. As a self-proclaimed technology geek, industry thought leader, and not to mention well-traveled world explorer, he's all about leveraging innovative solutions to create an efficient, collaborative, and imaginative work environment. Already in 2018, Raj has been named both Marketer of the Year by the Atlanta chapter of the American Marketing Association and Interactive Marketer of the Year by the Atlanta Interactive Marketer Association. That all means that you're about to get some really great insights about the state of marketing today, about our roles as marketers, and about how we can and should be leveraging, but not relying on, technology to fully realize the art of marketing. All right, welcome to Marketer and Machine. We are here today with Raj Choudhury from BrightWave. Welcome.
Hi there, how's things?
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for joining the show. So we are going to talk today about how technology enables the art of marketing. So when we were preparing for this show, you said something that I was really excited about and that really struck me, and I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it because I thought it'd be a great way to open things up. You said, I believe the value we derive out of the technology we put in place is the decisioning ability we as marketers have access to. So that's deep. Tell me more about your thoughts there.
You know, what's interesting, in the kind of era of digital we live in is I think we probably have more data than we even know what to do with. But the criticality and the value we actually drive is really what to do with that, right? And it's basically the decisioning ability that data and technology kind of combined gives us, right? And so as marketers, our value is to really understand where decisioning can really influence programs that we have in place or campaigns we have in place and so forth, and less about the actual delivery itself. So, my view is that data is ambiguous, is kind of everywhere, but harnessing the actual data into insights and ultimately into, powerful decisions, whether those are manual decisions or those decisions using technology or AI, machine learning, and so forth, is really the value criteria as marketers we can bring to the table. It's less about how we actually deliver it in the end, because technology can handle the delivery, and that's largely become a commodity. But the drive is really more so, how do we actually think about it and leverage decisioning power around it.
On that note, we created this show to discuss with marketing leaders like you the role that technology currently plays in our roles as marketers. So, the good, the bad, the ugly, and you lead a successful agency and work with a lot of marketers internally and externally. I'm so interested in your perspective on the way that we lean on technology in our roles, whether it's positively, negatively, or somewhere in between.
I see a lot of clients, their first intention is basically trying to put in technology as opposed to asking, the fundamental question of, why and what are we trying to drive out of this? And what is the idea or what is the white space that we're trying to create? And then how does technology help us solve that, help us with scale, help us with insights, help us in a myriad of different ways, which it absolutely can and is evolving considerably quickly. So, for me at least, I always look at marketing fundamentals and what is a core idea we're trying to drive. And then I look at how technology can enable us to achieve that in a meaningful way, in a sophisticated way, in a scalable way, and so forth.
What are your thoughts of how things are today, and how many of us as marketers are actually doing what you're saying, and following the art of marketing as opposed to relying on the technology?
The market's still maturing from a technology standpoint, and even the evolution of really how we're using technology within marketing. So oftentimes what we end up seeing is basically just a clutter, if you will, like a Frankenstein MarTech stack of products kind of built on top of each other. And then kind of to your point, the marketer is basically, is having to administrate a lot of different things and just keep things alive and move data around and so forth. And they get away from just the fundamentals of what they're trying to solve for, right? Whether it's brand awareness or lead acquisition or retention or whatever it may be. Oftentimes we spend all our time with massive integrations, right? Or massive data mergers and so forth. And we're not going back to just the fundamentals of what we're trying to achieve. And that's unfortunate, right? And I think that's really just the clutter of what's happened. And I think in a lot of cases, for me, and what I tend to see is that there's a massive focus in bringing in technology, but oftentimes we're missing the why, and why are we actually bringing it in, and what do we actually want to get out of it. And a lot of focus is always spent on the initial implementation of that technology. But for me, technology only solves a certain component. You have to be able to iterate on it like anything else. Oftentimes marketers make the mistake, I think, of saying, if I put in technology, it's just going to solve everything. It's not. You still have to curate it. You have to adjust it. You have to modify it. Most technology, once it goes in, is not a forget and leave it. And unfortunately, a lot of marketers tend to think of it like that, or they fund it in that mechanism.
I absolutely agree there, because, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this too, because as I listen to podcasts or am reading or just consuming a ton of content as I do, I feel like I see more and more marketers being pushed and even explicitly told, hey, your job needs to be more of that of a technologist, of a data scientist, as someone who should really be spending their days managing the technology and all the integrations that come with it, as opposed to really spending their time on the strategic, creative, human elements of marketing.
That's exactly what happens. And I think it's really founded in an issue that's been bubbling up, say, over the last 5 years or so, right? Which is basically, where should marketing technology actually live? Should it live within the IT organization? Should it live in the marketing organization? And typically, what's happened in the marketing technology world, at least, is that a lot of the components of decisioning on what technology to use and how to leverage it have actually gone into the marketing side of the world. And so you're basically getting marketers managing large procurement implementations of technology, which typically in the past was always within the IT realm, if you will. And the challenge for marketers is that oftentimes IT is looking at it from a lens that's forward to the business, right? From a risk management standpoint, from a overall integration with other products and so forth. And oftentimes they're too slow to react. And hence, marketing technology is kind of going into the CMO's office and being deployed quickly, but oftentimes without the lens of a long-term view of a CIO. So there's this kind of like fight, if you will. But in my view, you still have the majority of organizations putting that burden on marketers who are not critically thinking about those long-term IT needs, but rather about the marketing needs, which is correct, and then burn with the IT side of things, which is not really what they've built up for. You kind of mentioned you've got this kind of Frankenstein stack, and that's why. It's because the marketing organization and the IT organization have not collaborated effectively, because one wants speed and the other wants, risk mitigation.
Absolutely. And we have definitely seen this too. And that these Frankensteined tech stacks, which many marketers are actually holding is almost a badge of honor, right? And saying, hey, this is my tech stack, and it's really tall and very complicated, and this is how it all works together. And I pull this data from here, and I integrate it over here, and then we run this campaign there. And what worries me is that, one, again, it makes the marketer a master of integrations, not of connecting what's right, where's the customer here. And then also it presents risks, right? When to your point, when the CIO is not involved, they haven't vetted the technology, they haven't looked at how it all works with their existing systems. And have you seen anything along those lines as far as potential issues that have come from these Frankensteined tech stacks?
Oh, absolutely. Someone gets really good at basically, doing ETL data transfers between 5 different databases, and it's, somewhat behind the firewall, but really not, and so forth. And you basically have an IT organization cringing, right, on the other side of things. I mean, we've seen where the forethought hasn't been put in, but because there's still a where does this marketing platform live? Sometimes I've also seen IT organizations make blanket statements to basically say, no data can go out and then be pushed out into a cloud platform, as an example, where the level of data, and sometimes we're talking about within, great products like Amasis and so forth, is that we're actually talking about content, we're talking about relevance, we're talking about understanding, the right cadence and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff doesn't pose that risk. But when an organization doesn't have a fundamental understanding of what that product is really trying to do, sometimes you get these blanket statements that make it near impossible to actually get the effectiveness of a marketing technology really coming out to bear.
As we mentioned before, you lead a successful agency, BrightWave, that focuses on the channel that we here at Amasis see as really the center of successful marketing strategies, yesterday, today, and on into the future. And that is email. So I would love to hear your thoughts about the state of email today.
I look at email not as email necessarily, but really around the data we have about our customer. And when you think about it, I always feel like email is actually really at the epicenter of things, right? We know more about that customer than most other channels, if not every other channel. We know that they often have given us permission to market to them. They have some level of brand affinity. We have a history of their transactions. We have a history of their likes and dislikes and so forth. We actually have the ability to create a level of relevance to those types of customers more than pretty much almost any other channel. So for me, emails is really coming out of its shell in using that level of personalization, using that level of content. But I think largely the unfortunate thing is that email still lives in that little stigma of it's email and it's an afterthought versus this is the richest amount of data. Let's start here. And then just use that data to then fuel other channels. Oftentimes, again, I see it all the time, is that the person in charge of email is not that high up in the organization and is literally just looking at it from a silo standpoint, which is unfortunate because if you think about the level of insights you can get from how you market via email and how that can influence other channels, it's pretty mind-boggling, and vice versa. And yet we still view it in that silo, and at least for us at BrightWave, we view it much more from a omni-channel standpoint, from a customer journey standpoint, and leveraging email to then really fuel orchestration across the channels.
Mm-hmm. Same here. I mean, it really is for so many of the companies that we work with, and so many of the strategies that we end up recommending and executing is email really can be at the center and in the very beginning of a very successful omni-channel strategy. In so many ways, it truly is that centerpiece. On the note of email, what are some cool things that you've seen lately or that you're excited about?
I'm kind of excited about the future as it relates to, bidirectional data flow within email. So, obviously several months ago, we saw Google announce possibilities of, AMP for email. And, although that's still maybe a ways away, I think the principles of changing how we think about email into more of a mini application and driving bidirectional data and content within the email changes the entire experience itself. And whether it's AMP or something else that, hopefully Amasis builds or, someone else builds, I think that's a fundamental shift we're making, is that I think it's an exciting time to stop thinking about an email itself, but rather think about the tiles and content modules within there that it can affect and adjusting. So deconstruct the notion of what an email is completely, right? And rather think about components and how to drive the best value out of that component. And that component perhaps is made up of one component or 5 components or 10 components. But We've got fantastic products, again, like Marcus, that allow us to actually now create scale and scale with decisioning around the user and decisioning around behaviors and transactions and so forth. But then the next evolution, I think, is that, completing full cycle attribution within the actual email itself, changing up what it is as the recipient is viewing and interacting with that email, changes that static view of email that it has historically.
Time to rethink what email can do and really take a step back and put it to work, right?
Yeah, I always say, like, if I go to another conference where they ask me what day email should be sent, I'm going to shoot myself.
Exactly. Right. Every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, right? That's email time.
Exactly. That's not the right question, right?
Exactly.
That's not the right question you should be asking. So,
because again, to your point earlier, I mean, that puts it back on the delivery, on the technology, on the how, not on the what's right for the audience, what's right for every recipient, what's the best way to reach them in a way that's personal and engaging and meaningful. And when we lose sight of that, we lose effectiveness.
I mean, just to general point of these podcasts, I mean, I think you're onto something very fundamentally correct, which is that as marketers, our passion should be around creating the best experience, for our prospects and clients, and creating the best relevance around that. It shouldn't be, and that derives from ideas and innovation and testing methodologies and so forth. Those should be the fundamentals first, not necessarily here's a box with some technology and how can we best use the technology. Rather, it should be what are the ideas we need to drive. Now let's see how the technology can help enable those.
So on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and then come back and hear what you have to say, Raj, about the future of marketing. I hope that you're enjoying the insights shared here on Marketer and Machine. And if you are, you simply cannot miss out on your chance to attend today's most interactive and innovative marketing conference, the Amarsis Revolution. It's October 15th through 17th in fabulous downtown London. Through 3 days of engaging live sessions, networking events, and hands-on training labs, Revolution equips marketers with the tools and insights needed to push boundaries and create an unforgettable customer experience. Register online today at revolution.amarsis.com. And if you do so by July 30th, you'll get a really great early bird discount. Come join the revolution. All right, we are back and we're going to talk a little bit about the future of marketing. So Raj, what do you see coming? What kind of trends do you see emerging?
There's been obviously a lot of buzz in machine learning and AI and so forth in helping marketers. I think the evolution to that is less so the technology, but the acceptance of a marketer having trust in that decision and having trust to allow that to actually happen as opposed to not. Oftentimes, unless I can feel it, touch it, I'm not going to let something make a decision for me. And I think there's a greater understanding evolving in marketers and technologists out there, and also better user interfaces coming out to at least tell that story and keep a marketer, more comfortable, if you will, right? And so with that, I think, the promise of a true unified platform that allows, full-fledged orchestration is really at our doorstep, right? And I think the evolution is less so on the technology itself, but really the evolution of the marketers to understand and leverage that and actually trust in those systems to do the right thing for what they were built for. I'm a firm believer in orchestration, kind of going back to a question you had earlier, which is what's happening in the email world, right? So like the day where us as an agency, a client is coming to us and saying, we're trying to solve X. It's not we're trying to solve X for email, but we're trying to solve X. How can we do that from an omnichannel orchestration standpoint? And let's leverage the technology to do that, to solve a bigger aspect as opposed to working in a silo, is the day where I'm a very happy man.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raj. It's been great having you on the show. Some really, really good insights for us all to just kind of wrap our heads around and to rethink how much we may all be relying too much on technology or maybe not, and how we're leveraging it to really, truly focus on the art of marketing. With that, where can listeners get a little bit more information about anything that we talked about today or about BrightWave in general?
We try and drive a kind of a forward-looking kind of strategic and innovation conference called EIQ, eiqgathering.com, where we try and bring the best brands kind of pushing the envelope on what's possible as opposed to looking at, what has been done. Outside of that, I have my own blog, which is rajchoudhury.com, and I have insights on leadership and technology and travel, as we mentioned before, and just how to drive culture and people. So you can also check out the BrightWave blog. We've got just fantastic contributors from every level at the agency, whether there's strategists, technologists, designers, content strategists, and so forth. We try to give a view of what's happening in the industry, how we see it, what we see evolving, and so forth. So check it out at brightwave.com.
What a great conversation about marketers and machines, right? I really enjoyed this perspective that Raj brought to this conversation and his reminder to all of us to focus on the art of marketing, not on the technology. For my top 3 takeaways today, I leave you with a couple of thoughts to ponder in the week ahead. First, is your team leveraging technology to bring your creative strategies and ideas and content to life? Or are you first looking to your technology and what it's capable of, and then building strategies, campaigns, and tactics around that? Second, what secrets might you be keeping from your CIO or IT team? Be it knowingly or unknowingly, even in the most innocent, well-intentioned sense, what's in your tech stack that might come as a surprise to your IT team? And third, when was the last time you really took a good look at email and asked if you're using the channel to its full potential? Raj touched on some of the exceptional capabilities of email today and looked ahead into the future about what might be coming. And it's not the email that we all knew from a few years ago. It's time to rethink the way you use it. And there you have it. I'm Lindsay Chepkema, and you've been listening to Marketer and Machine, a podcast by Immersis. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and then join me next week for another Marketer and Machine conversation. Until then, be sure to visit immersis.com and subscribe to receive even more innovative marketing perspectives and actionable insights. Thanks for listening.